Peace and blessings, family. Welcome back to another Through the Bible. On this Through the Bible, I'm going to pick up with Acts chapter 21. I'm going to do 21 through 40. And of course, you know what to do. Get your pens, your paper, your Bible. Just follow along and take notes. All right, so Har, let's pick up with this Acts chapter 21 and verse 21.
All right. And they are informed of thee that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses, saying that they ought not to circumcise their children, neither to walk after the customs.
All right. And so here it is. It is Paul when he went in with James and the other elders. And, he was sharing with them how, the works that the Lord had did among the Gentiles by his ministry. And when they heard it, they glorified the Lord. But then they said to him, look, Brother Paul, you know, you see how many thousands of Jews there are which believe. And, these Jews are zealous of the law.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and they are informed that um, you teach all the Jews which are among the Gentiles. There's your clue, Israel. The Jews among the Gentiles
Mm-hmm.
to forsake Moses, saying that they ought not to circumcise their children, neither to walk after their customs. And it's funny because with us teaching Christ and love, this is what Israel hear in their ears, that you're teaching Israel to forsake Moses, and that you're teaching them not to circumcise their children. We're teaching you
The
spiritual.
spiritual, that's right.
But some Israelites are not ready for the meat,
Mm-hmm.
still on the milk. So that's why they don't get that understanding of what actually Paul here is teaching the same thing. It's about Christ and love, faith in love,
That's right.
faith in Christ.
Which is what the law was all about.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't see that. All they see is the carnal ordinances.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so, in essence, to her, what is going on in 21, when you hear this, well, basically what they're saying is you teaching our people to sin.
Yeah, basically. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Verse 22.
What is it, therefore? The multitude must needs come together, for they will hear that thou art come.
And so they're asking Paul, so what is it here that we're going to do? Because the multitude, they're going to come together. And when they already know, because Israel does a lot of talking, that you not
Yeah.
came to Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm. You know they know.
They was spied out on you everywhere you went. They kept tabs on you because they didn't want Paul to get the word of Christ out. So they always keeping tabs on, where you going, what do you teach, and so that they can come behind him most of all,
Yeah.
and try to uproot that teaching as well. Verse 23.
Do therefore this that we say to thee. We have 4 men which have a vow on them.
All right, Paul. So here it is. This is what we asking you to do. We have 4 men which have a vow on them. Verse 24.
Them take and purify thyself with them, and be at charges with them, that they may shave their heads, and all may know that those things whereof they were informed concerning thee are nothing, but that thou thyself also walkest orderly and keepest the law.
All right, so they just basically asking Paul to show a little wisdom here because we don't want things to get cronked in Jerusalem. Just do what these men doing here and go in with them, be at charges with them, so they can shave their heads, that all may know that those things whereof they were informed concerning thee are nothing. That stuff is nothing, but that thou thyself also walkest orderly and keep the law. And in doing this, what is Paul doing? He's actually showing love.
That's right. Because you don't want there to be chaos. You don't want
Mm-hmm.
nobody to get hurt in the
Right.
chaos.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's what Paul is doing. So, verse 25.
As touching the Gentiles which believe, we have written and concluded that they observe no such thing, save only that they keep themselves from things offered to idols, and from blood, and from strangled, and from fornication.
All right. And so they said, as touching the Gentiles which believe, and remember, he was talking about those Jews which were among the Gentiles, those Israelites that were scattered among the Gentiles. He's saying that they believe, he said, we have written and concluded that they observe no such things. We didn't tell them to do none of that. But this situation here is going to cause for some wisdom.
Right.
And he said that in this letter, this is what these, remember, this is James and the elders and all of them talking
Right.
with Paul. And it says, and we have written and concluded that they observe no such thing, except only that they keep themselves from things offered to idols, and from blood, and from strangle, and from fornication. This is what we told them to do. And because remember, at this time, we done seen the Israelites that were in Ephesus, what they were doing. Great is the goddess Diana. I mean, everywhere in Thessalonica, idol worship among the Gentiles is a big thing. And this is also what we experience here in the United States.
That's right.
With our people, celebrating like different holidays and stuff, which are attached to the idols. And in essence, what you can see these elders saying in this, to keep themselves from idols, because when you love God, you don't worship another.
That's
you
right.
don't do those things. So it still points back to them just love your God. Leave the other stuff alone. And love your brothers and sisters.
That's right.
Verse 26.
Then Paul took the men, and the next day, purifying himself with them, entered into the temple to signify the accomplishment of the days of purification, until that an offering should be offered for every one of them.
And all right, Israel go crazy when they see this here. See, Paul did it. He purified himself. He took the men in the next day and he purified himself with them into the temple, and to signify the accomplishments of the days of purification, until that an offering should be offered for every one of them. And we know it is Christ that purifies us.
Right.
He is the ultimate offering. It don't get no better than this. But here is a situation where Paul is using wisdom, being advised by those elders. This is what you do. Now let's go to 1 Corinthians 9, and we're going to read 19 through 22. Okay. All right, verse 19.
For though I be free from all men, yet have I made myself servant unto all, that I might gain the more.
All right, Paul said, though I be free from all men, and remember he said that he didn't have no man's blood on his hand. He's free from all men that he has taught. But yet he said, I have made myself servant unto all, that I might gain the more. And that's what it's about, gaining the more. Okay, verse 20.
And unto the Jews I became as a Jew, that I might gain the Jews. To them that are under the law, as under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law.
And remember back in Acts 21, and remember the brothers were saying how many thousands of the Jews there are which believe, but they were zealous of the law. And so within that, when you read this here in Corinthians, you're seeing when Paul is showing you this example of what he did here in Jerusalem among those that were purifying themselves. Right. He said, okay, unto the Jews I became as a Jew, that I might gain the Jews. To them that are under the law, as under the law. Now, if Paul is telling you to them that are under the law, as he was under the law, that lets you know that he didn't operate under the law
Under
of
the
Moses.
law, that's right.
that he operated under Christ. He said that I would might gain them that are under the law.
That's right. So that's why he would go up to like the feast days and stuff like
Right.
that. You know, because it's called using wisdom. He that winneth souls is wise.
Right.
So let's just say I want to go into one of these camps that's under the law. And they say, well, sister, you can't come in here. Now, I'm coming in with the mindset to try to win my brothers and sisters over.
Right.
But they say, you got to wear fringes when you're here. Well, guess what I'm going to do?
Put them fringes
It's
on.
called wisdom. Why? Because I understand, just like Paul understand, that's not what's going to save me.
That's right.
What saves me is Christ.
That's right.
But I don't mind doing this. Why? Because it's just the shadow of Christ anyway.
That's right. But it's about that gain.
And so,
Gaining
in
them.
order for me to get an entrance and stuff, I put myself, hey, how you doing? They
That's
say, hey,
right.
I say,
That's right. It's just
it's
that
just
simple.
about using wisdom.
It is. Okay, let's pick back up at verse 21.
To them that are without law, as without law, being not without law to God, but under the law to Christ.
Okay, so he says to them that are without law, as without law. He said, being not without law to God, but under the law of Christ. And so, because even then, you have those of us who are under the law of Christ, but yet some of us don't have that understanding that we need to have concerning the love part.
Love part, that's right.
He said, what?
That I might gain them that are without law.
See? That are what? Without law. And just like on this side, sometimes you have like the Christians. They know we're not under the law of Moses. You know, it's about Christ, but yet they don't have the true understanding.
Right.
So you're able to gain them that are without the law of Moses and show them the true meaning of the love of Christ.
That's right.
The law of Christ, what it means and what it entails. It don't mean that, oh, I'm under Christ, he did it all and I can do whatever I want to do. That's why Paul, in certain places, he said, you know, shall I continue in sin that grace may abound? No, Christian, you cannot do that.
Well, just look at what they just said in Acts. That they keep themselves from things offered to idols and from blood and from shrimp. And what? Fornication.
Right.
And fornication is an umbrella term for sexual immorality, all kinds.
That's right.
You can't do that under Christ.
That's right.
Because that's not loving God or your neighbor.
That's right.
So Christ ain't a grace card. You could just swipe him. No.
Don't work that way. Verse 22.
To the weak became I as weak, that I might gain the weak. I am made all things to all men, that I might by all means save some.
All right. And he says, to the weak became I as weak, that I might gain the weak, that I am made all things to all men, that I might by all means save some. All right. All right. So let me see something right quick. If I want to go there, if not, I will.
And it was good that you brought that out because, you know, a lot of Israelites, these are the kind of verses they like to run to here, Acts 21.
Yes.
To try to say, oh, see, look, even Paul was keeping the law, keeping the law. Moses, no, what he's doing is using wisdom. The advice that the elders gave him is called wisdom.
Yes, wisdom. This is what you need to do. And so you see, even in that, Paul just didn't operate and fly off the seat of his pants. He took that instruction that was given.
Yeah, that's right.
He did. Okay, so let's go back to Acts chapter
21.
Yeah, in verse, what we at?
I think 27.
27. Okay.
Right. And when the 7 days were almost ended, the Jews which were of Asia, when they saw him in the temple, stirred up all the people and laid hands on him.
Oh,
Mm.
okay. So here it is when the 7 days were almost, almost, not quite, but almost ended. The Jews, which were what?
Of Asia.
So
Mm.
it would you mean like those in Revelation chapter 1,
Mm-hmm.
the seven
Seven
churches
churches
which are in Asia?
Mm.
Would it be like these
Jews.
Jews
Mm-hmm.
which are in Asia when they saw him in the temple, stirred up all the people and laid hands on? They grabbed Paul up. They went nuts.
Mm.
See, they get the people stirred up
Mm.
against you and against your teaching.
Mm.
Because remember, with being under the law of Moses, there's a money transaction, there's food transaction, from the people. And to take, because remember, it's not always the small people, it's the leadership.
It's the leadership, yeah.
And they don't want the resources being cut off from them. So they need the people to stay under the law of Moses so you can bring them tithes, so you can pay like they do now. They charge people to come to the Passover.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yep.
That's evil.
Temple tax, all that.
You got all this stuff going on. And so they stirred up all the people and laid hands on Paul.
Mm.
Verse 28.
Crying out, men of Israel, help. It's always good. This is the man that teacheth all men everywhere against the people and the law and this place, and further brought Greeks also into the temple and have polluted this holy place.
No, y'all done polluted
Yeah.
it. But they crying out for help from the men of Israel. And they said, this is the man, this Paul right here, the one we looking at. He said that teacheth all men everywhere against the people. Paul didn't teach against the people.
Mm-mm.
But what he taught them, you're going to die in your sins
Mm-hmm.
if you don't receive Christ and believe in him. Oh, so you against your people now? No, he's teaching Christ.
He's teaching Christ.
And he says not only and the law. Oh my goodness. He teaching against the law of Moses. He teaching against the law, y'all. And what?
This place.
So I'm sure he let them know them Romans gonna come and overthrow Jerusalem. So that
That's
would be
right.
teaching against this place.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, Paul was taught of Christ. And so all of this here, Paul ran this information down on them. And remember, our people hearing the same thing from Stephen, they couldn't take it. They stoned him to death.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said on top of that, he done brought Greeks also into the temple and polluted this holy place. Isn't that something?
Yep.
That you would think that a brother that's been converted to Christ is polluted, but not what you doing, lying.
Yeah, lying.
All that you saying you're under the law and the Big Ten, you breaking all of them. You want to commit murder.
That's right.
Y'all done already polluted the place, but what they saw as polluted was you showing love and having faith.
Mm-hmm.
See how twisted Israel mind is?
Mm-hmm. And look at how they will say things indirectly that where the people can't detect the evil.
Mm-hmm.
See, they'll make it about the temple, the people, law.
Mm-hmm.
Even use some things that may be true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But they'll twist things.
Yes.
To get the people
right
against you.
Mm-hmm.
But the true intent is what they ain't saying. They're messing up my money.
Right. That's what it is about.
They're messing up my business.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm gonna do about this palace I done built next to the temple?
That's right. What I'm gonna do about it? Because I ain't gonna be getting funded no more. They don't want that finance.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, and to this day, that's how, a lot of these Israelites are.
Right.
They'll talk about all this stuff that say you doing, but it ain't really about that. They just use that to distract the people.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
They don't care about the people, and the
No.
people should know that.
Yep.
Look at how they treat you.
Mm-hmm. But for
And
some
all of a
reason,
sudden, they care now,
the
protecting
people
you from
love
this
it that
man,
way.
this apostle.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But you're right, the people love it.
They love it that way. Israel love people that don't care nothing about them. They really do. They question you on every little
Sure
thing. The
do.
line joke up there, they
Mm-hmm.
don't question not one iota.
Mm-hmm. That'd be amen and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Seal clap.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Verse 29.
For they had seen before with him in the city Trophimus, an Ephesian, whom they supposed that Paul had brought into the temple.
All right. And so remember here that there are thousands of Jews which believe that were among the Gentiles. And so when we look here, if they seen in the city of Trophimus in Ephesians, who was Paul talking? Who was he teaching to? Because it said Jews, which were scattered
That's
among
right.
the Gentiles. So he was talking to his own people. And so they would see this Trophimus would let you know if he was an Ephesian, he was an Israelite.
Yeah.
Whom they supposed that Paul had brought into the temple. Okay.
And I was going to say, too, the same Ephesians that a lot of these Hebrew Christians like to go to, even just regular Christians that go to and say, see the strangers join into the commonwealth.
Mm-hmm.
This is the stranger here.
Right. That's right. That is so true, Zahar. Yep.
Right, verse 30.
Mm-hmm.
And all the city was moved, and the people ran together, and they took Paul and drew him out of the temple, and forthwith the doors were shut.
Okay, and so all the city was moved. Boy, that's you just think about the whole city. Think about where you at, and your whole city is moved against you, not for you, but against you. And they run down on you together, bomb rush you. And what they took Paul and drew him out of the temple, and forthwith the doors were shut. Verse 31.
And as they went about to kill him, tidings came unto the chief captain of the band that all Jerusalem was in an uproar.
And so here we go. But remember, Paul, this had been prophesied to Paul earlier too, that, remember they were saying that the prophet Agabus, he bound himself with Paul's girdle, both hands and feet, and told him what would happen to him when he go to Jerusalem. And sure enough, it says they went about to kill him. But Paul said that he was also not only to be bound, but ready to die. That means he had total faith and confidence in Christ. I live, I die, well, I'm going. I'm going to teach this thing to my last breath. That's what he's telling them. But look, and they came what? A chief captain of the band or of the military that what? All Jerusalem was in an uproar. So basically it's a riot going on in Jerusalem.
Now this ain't our people. Once you get Israel started, boy, don't stop. It gets crunk.
Yes. You see here how when we get upset with something, we go to burning stuff, busting out,
tearing everything up.
City look like it done went through a war.
For real.
When Israel get mad. But see, the chief captain had to hear this, and I'm sure he was this, because remember they were under the Romans at this time, and so that news get back to the headquarters of Rome. This chief captain gonna have to answer. Yeah. So you being the captain, hey, the news that came to your ears. These Negroes done lost their mind in Jerusalem. It was up in the uproar.
Yeah, uproar.
Sounded like something from back in Moses' day when you coming down from the mic. Is it a war going on? Yeah, when Israel get mad,
don't
and upset,
nobody get crunk like these people.
When they party, it sound like they fighting. And when they fighting, it sound like they fighting. Verse 32.
who immediately took soldiers and centurions and ran down unto them. And when they saw the chief captain and the soldiers, they left beating of Paul.
He had to be a heathen.
Yep.
That's the
That's
only
Israel.
thing, because if it would have been an Israelite soldier or a captain of it, man,
Yeah, they wouldn't have listened. They started beating on him too.
Yeah. But look, this he had, when he heard that, he immediately had to take soldiers and centurions. And when they saw the chief captain and the soldiers, they stopped beating Paul. And that's our people today. It takes some heathen authority to make Israel act right.
Just think about it. You beating up on your brother, on your people, and a heathen have to come.
Yes. All right.
And as soon as the heathen come, they don't even say nothing yet. They just show up.
Yeah.
The nigga wrote, stand to attention.
Yes. I done seen them do it. Okay, verse 33.
Then the chief captain came near and took him, and commanded him to be bound with 2 chains, and demanded who he was and what he had done.
All right, and so here comes the chief captain. He came near, he took Paul and commanded him to be bound with 2 chains, and not the rapper either. Not that 2 chains, but just to bind him, just to handcuff him up. And he demanded, he said, who is this? And what has he done? That causing such a uproar, such a riot here. He had to know what was going on. Verse 34.
And some cried one thing, some another, among the multitude. And when he could not know the certainty for the tumult, he commanded him to be carried into the castle.
You see that? Some said one thing, some said another. Why y'all couldn't just be all on one accord with it? Because some people join in on stuff that they have no clue.
Don't even know what's going on.
But that's Israel. Remember, it tell their feet are quick to run to mischief. Ain't nothing changed with that. If it's some folly going on, boy, Israel feet run to it. They want to join in on it. But you have no clue what's going on. And it was so bad that he couldn't even make any sense out of what they were saying. And so he said, you know what, go ahead and take Paul into the castle. Verse 35.
And when he came upon the stairs, so it was that he was born of the soldiers for the violence of the people.
And just think about it. The violence against Paul was so bad that the soldiers had to carry him. And think about it. Now, you already done got beat. And a beating, you're going to be sore, busted up, bust lip, nose, eye. You know how Israel get thrown something. Because it said they left off beating
him. So they was already beaten. And now he bound.
And it was that bad where the soldiers had to carry you
up the steps.
Because of the violence of the people. Man, verse 36.
For the multitude of the people followed after, crying, away with him.
Wow. And so it said the multitude of people followed after, saying, basically, kill him. Same way, didn't they do Christ like that? Crucify him, away with him. Same thing.
But never forget who started it. If you go back, who instigated it? There's Jews which of Asia. We know it was leadership.
That's right.
And that's what they do. See, if you notice, the people all yelling, what they back there doing.
See, is they plan working?
Yeah.
That's right. So they cried out for Paul to be killed. Because away with him don't mean just take him somewhere.
No, it'd be put him to death.
Because that was prophesied. Because they wanted to kill Paul, as they told you in verse 31. Okay, let's read verse 37.
And as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, may I speak unto thee? Who said, canst thou speak Greek?
right? And so here is Paul, as he was led, and as Paul was to be led into the castle, he asked the chief captain, "Can I speak to you?" And the chief captain said, "Can you speak Greek?" Right? Verse 38.
Art not thou that Egyptian, which before these days madest an uproar, and ledest out into the wilderness 4,000 men that were murderers?
All right. So, Zahara,
Mm.
I have a question. This man said, this chief captain asked Paul, "Are not that thou that Egyptian?"
Mm.
Now, is Paul not an Israelite?
He's an Israelite.
Are not the Israelites black?
They black. That's
So if he asked him if he was an Egyptian, which before these days made an uproar, what color was the Egyptian?
They was black. That's right.
And this is the stuff the heathens don't want you to know and get the understanding of. But he asked Paul, "Are not you that Egyptian, which before these days made an uproar and led us out into the wilderness 4,000 men that were murderers?" And what was Paul answering? Verse 39.
But Paul said, I am a man which am a Jew of Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city. And I beseech thee, suffer me to speak unto the people.
Paul said, "No, I'm a man," which he said, "I'm a Jew of Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city, and I am asking you to allow me to speak unto the people." Okay, so Paul just let him know, I ain't no Egyptian.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, but he's a Jew of
Tarsus.
Okay, so verse 40.
And when he had given him license, Paul stood on the stairs and beckoned with the hand unto the people. And when there was made a great silence, he spake unto them in the Hebrew tongue, saying,
All right, and so here it is. The captain, when he had given Paul permission, Paul stood on the stairs and he beckoned with his hand to the people. Because Israel, you got to, hey, calm down. Let me speak. And when there was made a great silence, he spake unto them in the Hebrew tongue, saying. Now, for all of those who don't like the chapter by chapter, verse by verse, what if you just stop right here? Because this is a continuation of a letter. So, in order to understand what was said when he made a great silence of the people, what he spake to them in the Hebrew tongue saying, that means you got to pick up
right,
the
you
next
gotta keep reading
chapter, right? To understand what was said. You can't come in here and cherry pick and then you hop over somewhere else and you never got an understanding of what was said here.
Right.
Because it's a letter. That's why you don't start in the middle somewhere.
Right.
Because you lose the subject, you lose the topic, the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why in the message.
That's right.
And so we will find out, Lord willing, what he spoke to them in the Hebrew tongue saying when Zahara picks up with chapter 22. So you have anything else you want to add?
No, ma'am, that was good.
Well, all right, family. With that said, we will say
Shalom.